Okay, Paolo Toserati from European Commission. I have recently concluded a research on policy options and failures about energy efficiency in buildings. And in doing this research, I spotted two aspects, two things that are really striking, kind of paradox. On one side, you have probably seen many versions of a McKinsey cost abatement curve that shows that it compares different options to target a reduction of CHG emission. And what is astonishing is that all options, or almost all options, targeting improving energy efficiency, especially in buildings, are at a negative cost. On the other side, there is an option that has been not mentioned today at all, and that in my mind could be a powerful tool for governments to improve the competitiveness of goods and stuff that is energy efficient. And but this is something that is not under the control, under the control of European institutions, and this is taxation. It's a taboo to speak of taxation of fiscality at European level. But already 1 century ago, a famous economist, Pigou, demonstrated that with taxation you can include the cost of externalities in the real cost of goods. So showing a way to improve the competitiveness of stuff that is, in his case, was showing pollution, but we can speak today of improving efficiency. So at that time, governments had no tools to implement policies easily for Pigouvian taxation, but today there is a tool at European level that is there, widely available, and it is the labeling of goods. So every article, every building has a parameter to show its efficiency. So the question is basically how is it possible that such a powerful tool that basically has no cost and needs no investment for member states could be conceived as overall budget neutral, so having overall no cost for taxpayers, but has a huge potential to orient consumption and production. Why this is not exploited? We have just a few examples in the area of cars, but nothing is discussed for buildings or for appliances, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one, and please short question if possible.
Good evening. My name is Krzysztof Laskowski. I represent Euroheat and Power. We are an association which represents cogeneration and district heating and cooling in Europe and beyond. I have just a small remark and then 2 questions, one to Mr. Constantinescu and another one to Ms. Schloman. There is clearly a concern with increased use of energy imports and final energy consumption reduction at end user level. You obviously touched upon how to tackle it. However, there's a missing link in our today's debate, and that missing link is transformation and production of energy, which is very often overlooked at in the Brussels debates. This is where the biggest potential for energy saving lies, and with the overall efficiency of power plants in Europe at 33%, well, 67% of the 67% of the energy is actually escaping through the chimney. And we could save this exergy of energy in fossil fuels by producing heat and electricity simultaneously. And today's combined heat and power plants have efficiency exceeding 80%. So clearly there's a clear potential on the heating and cooling market there. And my question now to Mr. Is this? Yep, that's fine. My question to... I suppose I ran out of time. So my question to Mr. Constantinescu now is, will the European Commission finally give similar attention to the heating and cooling market as it gives to electricity? And will it release a long-awaited strategy for heating and cooling, addressing the enormous potential for energy efficiency in heating and cooling? And my question to Ms. Schloman is, you mentioned energy savings at the final end user level of 500 million tons of oil equivalent, going down from 1,200 million to 700 million, that I believe is 40% of 40% reduction. How does it translate into primary energy savings, and what role cogeneration had in your models when you came up with these figures? So, thank you.
Okay, we take the third one, and then we'll take answers.
Thank you. I'll make this question very quick. It is to Mr. Constantinescu, and it's a sort of repeat of what I asked earlier to Mr. Benson. We've heard that energy efficiency is extremely important, etc. You say yourself it is one of the main solutions to Europe's energy challenges. How, therefore, do you explain the, I want to say, complete lack of any emphasis on energy efficiency and savings in the impact assessment for the 2030 white paper communication, which is coming out in January, we hope? How do you explain this total disconnect between the importance of energy savings and the lack of any, I want to say, insistence on the need for binding targets, binding legislation in that white paper? I'm aware that that white paper is not yet out, but nonetheless, it would be extremely interesting to hear your views on this. Thank you.
Okay, I think we will then give you, Tudor, first the possibilities, and if then when you have finalized, if you can stay longer, we will be very happy, but if you have to go, we will understand that. Please.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I will try at least to provide some views, if not the expected answers. So on the energy efficiency in buildings and on the labeling, of course, labeling is important. We acknowledge that. There is a lot of work on that. Mark can know even more. He worked in that unit where I think half of the people work just on labeling. So, what is, to be clear, we have a range of instruments for promoting and securing higher level of efficiency and cost-effective level of energy efficiency, also in long term, if you want, on a life cycle cost-based analysis. Still, labeling is one of them, of course. And it plays its role in information, in awareness, and also in helping defining minimum efficiency standards and moving certain products at a certain moment out of the market. So definitely is there. But in this game of energy efficiency, there is no silver bullet. We need a whole range of instruments. And labeling is, of course, one of them. And I do recall at a certain moment, speaking about buildings, the equivalent is the energy performance certificate, no? If we speak about labeling. And a Dutch study which went quite deep into the analysis to show what is the effect between a Class A and a Class E in a Dutch market on the price of real estate. Between A and E, it was 4%. So on the other hand, the potential to improve energy efficiency, it's maybe 40, 50, or even more. So we need more than just the labeling. It's part of it. We give the right attention. And I think in terms of internal resources of the Commission, we even give more attention than in other areas. But this is because it's also a labor-intensive activity. Now, in terms of heating and cooling, yeah, of course, we are fully aware that still heating represents the highest energy demand in at least the residential sector, but not only. And improving energy efficiency in this area is equally important. Again, we need to take an integrated view. And for example, because I mentioned the structural funds and the cohesion policy, what we try is to make sure that it's not that we renovate now and put new capacities for even cogeneration in place before handling the end-use demand, because this would not be very wise after all. So things have to be done in a certain order. This being said, developing a kind of strategy for heating is something which we want to do, and to look at the alternatives and options and conditionalities across Europe, because compared to electricity and gas, heat, on the other hand, is something rather local. You cannot have really a European market for heat. Country projects or cross-country projects and projects of common interest and this kind of thing. Of course, it's a local market. We know that it's very important because still a lot of the energy demand, in particular in the residential sector, maybe 60 to 70% is heating and cooling, and therefore a strategy on how to handle that in combination with the energy efficiency measures, which to first of all tackle the energy demand. At the end of the day, it's about equalizing the long-term marginal cost of the various measures in such a way as to get the cost effectiveness and the cost optimality in all that, and not do it arbitrarily. Now, the last point, I think energy efficiency figured high on the agenda. It will continue to figure high on the agenda. I cannot refer to documents which are not public documents and which are working documents maybe. And as far as the messages came from us, and not only the messages, but the evidence of the policies and of the directives and of the measures and of the push we put in place, all speak for a strong commitment to push energy efficiency as high as cost effective, and cost effective not just in short term, but again what the building directive introduced on life cycle based analysis in all sectors of the economy. So this being said, the issue of how to go ahead for 2030 and what kind of targets, what targets will be, yeah, all this will be and it will be a discussion which perhaps will take place next year after we come with the first proposal. Thank you.
We will pass over the microphone to both Barbara and Mark here.
Well, one answer on your question, what's the impact on primary energy? We calculated both primary energy and also ETS, the impact on ETS and the effort sharing target in the study we did for the coalition. Therefore, you will find it on the website. And if you look at primary energy, instead of these 41% final savings, you come to a figure of 46% for primary energy, including some increase of renewables on the one hand, but also some improvements on the supply side. But on the other hand, there will in 2030 there will be a certain part of electricity produced by fossil fuels. Therefore, the impact is not so big as we may think, and we did not so go so deep in the transformation sector as we went into the final sector, but that's the order of magnitude behind the figures.
Maybe just from my side, adding on the building certificate. I mean, I agree with you that it's a marvelous instrument in terms of giving the transparency, but we also on the other side have to acknowledge the limits of it. So just giving you two examples of a story. So just imagine central London where 20 people are queuing to get this flat, which the 50 square meters, which avoid them 1.5 hours of commuting daily, and you're one among these 50 and on competition to just get the thing. Will you be asking for the energy certificate of the place? Not sure if people will. On the other side, take Paris. I mean, just stroll around the streets where they have the obligations with the to put the label outside with the selling ads for places, and you'll find in central Paris, take the 6th district where you get a nice fancy 90 square meters for, say, this 1.8 million euros, which is cheap buy. And just as you have it, I mean, just look, and it's marvelously labeled a smashing G-class and the stamp vendu over it. So there again, if you pay that much, you don't care for energy costs, this little extras around. So it's a marvelous tool, but still, reality shows that it just has its inherent limits of what you can and what you can't do with that.
I could maybe also add a bit to the, but also we have made a study in Denmark on the effect of the energy certification of buildings on one-family houses, and made by the Building Research Institute, 400 houses with certificates and that have been sold over the period of 2009 to 2012. And we have seen now that the effect of the labeling has increased over time. And from in 2011, 2012, we in average see that the price on the market go up around 100 euro per square meter, moving up one classes for F up the scale, up to C, and then let's. But we also see that the price effect is lower in the Copenhagen area as in the rest of the country. But in average, 100 euro per square meter, moving one class up, is the market prices are increasing of a building.
I was just to. My question was more general, not on buildings, but on a motor, appliance, tires, cars. If you diversify, let's say, the TVA on the basis of the efficiency, and you have a parameter because you have a label that shows the efficiency of that article, you can compensate the extra cost that the user has, the customer has to pay for improved efficiency. So in this way, you improve the competitiveness of goods that are more efficient.
I think we will open up for more questions and comments, and we can take it. And I think Ludwig was first here.
Actually, I had one question for Mr. Konstantinescu, but maybe I can. Thank you. I can raise it anyhow because I think it's relevant. He was mentioning empowerment consumer in his presentation. Which is something everyone is agreed with. But point, is it an empty consensus slogan, or what is the translation into policies? Because today I do not see really into the energy efficiency area any empowerment of consumers, in spite being in the energy efficiency directive. So what are plans and how this could be turned into policy actions, especially for the efficient consumer empowerment, not for the consumer empowerment as such. Second element, I think, maybe I play a bit the devil's advocate. We are all in agreement that energy efficiency is good, is convenient, and so, but we are pleading for a target. There is an intimate contradiction between the two elements. If it's so good, then a reaction saying there is no need for a target is reasonable. If we plead for a target, means that eventually we don't expect that the economics are so favorable. And I think there is one element that has not been raised today, and is the investment need. Both companies and households and families are fighting for prioritization on investments. And eventually, that is an area where energy efficiency is not as high as we would welcome. I think that this is an element to be considered. As well, I think that another element to be considered, I don't favor that much the idea of VAT actions and so, because incentives are just a declaration of failure of energy efficiency as a, let's say, positive policy. I think that an efficient demand is paying too much the electricity that is used or the energy it is used, because we are just subsidizing all the externalities of the other non-efficient demand. We need less capacity, we need less transport, we need less reserves. Why should all this be paid by anyone in spite of the efficiency of our demand? So I think that there is an element to be developed in the field of what is the business model in the definition of the energy price, because otherwise it's not convenient. The second best or the third best option, even in the sector of household appliance, which I represent, may be the best option for the consumer. Thanks.
Yeah, my name is Michael Bennett. I'm from the European Commission from DG Enterprise, and it's just to help our questioner here, about the about what is happening with other products than buildings. So I'm part of the eco-design team in DG Enterprise. We have our brother or sister colleagues in DG Energy, and just so that in case it's a forgotten policy in the room, we have over 30 different eco-design and energy calculation done by an external body last year, which we also checked. And if you add up the effects that we estimate of energy efficiency by 2020, all those disparate elements covering over 30 product groups make up the same effect of energy efficiency reductions as the whole of the ETS. So it's just, we're doing that with a skeleton staff compared to what there is that's devoted the resources both in member states and in the European Commission compared to the ETS. So maybe it's probably a message that's not new for eceee, but for other people in the audience, maybe it's still a novel message. So just wanted to give some clarification.
Kurt Eriksen, Velux. You have all touched upon the value of energy efficiency, and you have all touched upon the job creation, but you have not digged into what job creation really is. And I would like you to discuss a little bit in the panel the potential for job creation within energy efficiency in the existing building stock. And I know that Renovate Europe have made some studies in this field showing that it is of high value for the society and for the private house owners also. I would like you to discuss that topic a little bit more than what you have shown at the presentation today. And I would like Peter to be involved in that discussion also, because my question to you is, will eceee do anything in the area of making it visible how much job creation potential there are in energy efficiency of the existing building stock? Thank you.
Okay, then I will give the floor to the two panelists we have here, and maybe I will take some few comments myself.
Yes, I can only say we have some figures on that, the job creation which comes in the different sectors from energy efficiency by macroeconomic modeling. What we already discussed, Didier said he doesn't believe in that, but I think it becomes more and more important. And our experience in Germany is that it is part of all these energy efficiency studies at the moment, that these macroeconomic impact, especially this employment impact and real figures will become more and more important, and is at the moment a big discussion when going for energy efficiency, and you can show this impact. We started with renewable energies because there it was much easier to model. You have only a limited number of technologies, but if you go to energy efficiency, you can really show it for the building sector, but also for industry going on these energy saving technologies. And as far as I remember our figures, it's higher than the impact on renewable for renewables we discussed some years ago, and now Mark showed the decrease in employment in that market, but in the energy efficiency market it's really the other way around.
Yeah, I think maybe sticking with the employment side, I mean, basically you have two effects. I mean, one effect, which will be the sort of gross effect, will be maintaining jobs and creating new jobs, but already maintaining jobs and keeping jobs in Europe is still a big bulk, and the job creation, so the extra added jobs, that's say a top on. So say with the Energy Efficiency Directive, the 400,000 jobs we calculated at that time were the add-on, whereas the gross effect of these new jobs plus the jobs which are, you know, keeping stable within Europe would be much bigger. So probably in the realm of say 2 million about, roughly. So that are the two effects. Maybe let me comment on another point which we had, so and actually combine two things. So the empowerment of consumer and eco-design, because I think eco-design also, well, combined with labeling, is a marvelous tool to get efficiency in the products group. So, you know, cutting off the worst segment by eco-design, on the other side creating a demand pull for best products with the labels, which is you know what you are doing in the enterprise and DG Energy. So I think that's an approach which is extremely helpful and extremely powerful once developed to the limit it can go. Another one is that actually, well, why can't it be more eco-designs? Well, I think I can say it. The true answer is it's a hell of work to actually go into the detail of the detail of the detail, get all the data done, etc., etc. So it's quite a massive thing. But once you have the thing done, you can take byproducts. So take the Energy Star, so the labeling for office equipment, you know. We've taken over the US labels, and actually just by that we get all the supplier data for the energy consumption, and it's just fantastic, like some countries did, to just take that data, put it into a database, put it online for the consumer to you know find her or his office equipment, so be it the printer, be it the laptop, tablet, etc., and just, you know, trickle down by a sorting mechanism and get the energy efficiency product, which is not just energy efficiency but just, you know, fit for the individual needs. So you can do a lot of that to get it personal. And actually, in terms of activating consumers, that is actually, from my experience, what worked the best, to bring it home individually to the people. I mean, taking energy audits, we had examples where, you know, we subsidized energy audits at large, so people were coming to an advice center to just get information how to insulate, etc. And the result of that wasn't too impressive. But once we had actually on-site audits, so people coming, you know, auditors coming to the people's flats or houses and just going up from cave to roof and saying, oh, here, by the way, you could insulate more, you know, you could switch, you know, put a different lighting here. So there the effect of really implementing the things people heard was, you know, on a completely different scale. So you really have to catch the people where they are. That'd be my, you know, sense of getting consumer activation on ground.
I'm not a member of the panel, but I think I will at least, because there was a question directly too easy to me, and I think I will give two comments. First, I fully agree with what was said earlier, that to promote energy efficiency, there's no one single bullet which can deliver. And it's not only by empowering the consumer. We need to do several things at the same time. And at least what I've seen as good success stories, which really has moved and delivered, it's where we have empowered the consumer by awareness raising, information, labeling. At the same time, we've had the right economic incentives by taxation or subsidy schemes. And we have also maybe had the right regulation. So we have different measures working together at the same time. And then it starts working. And so I'm very much in favor of buildings. We have to have strong requirements in building codes for existing building, for new building. We have to have labels to give consumers information and empowering them. But we also have to use our taxation systems or other to give the right economic incentives, work together. So a more comprehensive. Then coming back to job creation. I'm not an economist, but I worked very closely together with the Minister of Finance for 25 years. And I have learned, at least in a Danish context, that if we argue for job creation in a bottom-up approach, saying that we invest much more in our buildings and that will create more jobs, then the macroeconomics people will say in a few years that will crowd out because that it will increase salaries and that will take jobs away, money away from other sectors, and on the total economy there will be be exactly the same job. The only way to create more jobs in the long term in these kind of models will be to increase competitiveness of the economy and productivity in the economy. And so we are coming back to that. Will efficiency increase productivity in our economy in their classic way of macroeconomic thinking? And I think from my perspective, we have to have much more focus on the multiple benefits. And the multiple benefits, it's also a way to include the consumers much more. We have seen there is a lot of investment in existing buildings. In Denmark, we have argued that we have invested a lot of new kitchen and new bathrooms. I cannot calculate the payback period for a new bathroom or a new kitchen, but that gives the consumer. They produce less food these days, but they have bigger kitchens. But there is some kind of value for the consumer there. So it's another benefit, and we have to see we have a lot of other benefits for energy efficiency in indoor climate, health, and all these things. That's one way to have the consumer much more engaged. The other benefit on job creation is not for the consumer; it's for the government and society, and we have to work on both sides.
Makes me wonder what people are actually doing in the kitchen. Obviously not cooking. I just would like to mention one thing about job creation. There was an informal session at this summer study triggered by Adrian Joyce here, where we almost agreed that we should do something more on the eceee on job creation. And we discussed it as late as before this session. And you really give some input to go further along that road.
Okay, Rurik Holmberg, Swedish Energy Agency. Regarding job creation, I have what I would call a partial objection to the way the discussion goes now. The reason is that we have observed that it's true, definitely true, that there is a huge, well, at least a big job creation potential. The problem is that those people who would take these jobs don't exist, in the sense that there is not enough qualified people. So in order to make use of this job creation process, we need to have people who are educated and trained for these particular jobs. And I'm always missing this aspect when calculating what can be reached, because even if we could train professionals in, let's say, 2 or 3 years' time, this is a investment. We have to find the resources, let's say, from the side of the government to put into education, and we can't start right now. And one more aspect, it has been observed in some Scandinavian countries, at least perhaps elsewhere, that people who go into, especially when it's about buildings, engineers, technicians, and so on, they are more interested in working with new constructions, and it has been very, very difficult to recruit people to start an education in renovation of existing buildings. So we do have a serious bottleneck here. Thanks.
May I give a very short comment to that? Because I think it's a quite interesting discussion, but I do not disagree with you that we probably need those people and we need to educate them. But could you imagine that IBM Or Apple, 10 years ago, said we cannot develop the computer because we do not have the people to do it. And they would never do it like that. So they would go for the challenge to develop the computer, and then the other things would come at the same time. So I think that we should not argue that we do not have the people, we do not have the education. It will come. If the market is there, and the politicians can make the market. If the market is there, they will be there. And I also realized one thing more, which I would like to point out. Mr. Ben Benson said it directly when he was approaching us this morning or this afternoon. He said, it is a political possibility because those jobs cannot be moved out of Europe. So in principle, we had a politician saying to us, job creation is a tool. I can see it, I can use it. And therefore, we as an organization and network and so on, we have to reflect on that, and we have to try to identify how can we develop this further, because the politicians can use it.
Yes, can I just add to the whole thing about job creation, because I feel that this is so much a cross-cutting agenda. And if we're looking at 2030 and we're looking to include energy efficiency in what happens, it's not just one particular stream of European money, as we heard in the presentation. It's the other money that's coming through, for example, from the ERDF funding. And you know, the next phase for applications is about to go in, and for those areas that can qualify for it. And I do believe that it's really important that right the way across we see this as a cross-cutting agenda, and that other streams of European funding should be complementing all together to actually get this extra focus that we need on energy efficiency. But can I just say about the jobs issue? Last week I launched for the IEMA the Big Green Skills Challenge. This was in the UK Parliament, trying to look at how SMEs and everybody can actually get the proper training that is needed, whether or not you're a finance director and need to rethink your business, or whether or not you're a labourer doing retrofit in the housing that needs to be retrofitted. So I think that anybody who's looking at the energy efficiency agenda has got to look at the job skills and has got to make sure that training and stepping up the training is a really important part of it.
Yeah, Adrian Joyce, eceee and Renovate Europe and other responsibilities. But I just wanted to add to the jobs debate. I agree with all that's been said, and particularly on the training and skills. But one point you haven't made so far is, by our estimates, there has been unemployment of 3 million experienced workers in the construction sector since 2008 across Europe as a whole. So there are 3 million workers with experience ready to come back into a market if we can stimulate it. But I agree that we would have to bring them back in, and in conjunction also establish career paths, proper training for blue-collar, white-collar workers in the sector. So yeah, I'd very much like to see eceee take up more work on jobs and be able to neutralize arguments about crowding out and about displacement jobs, and whether it's real economy or whether they're displacement jobs, which unions will never support. They have to be new, direct, additional jobs. So understanding more the dynamics would be really helpful, I think, to our debate. But when I have the floor, maybe I could move it on a little, because we're talking today about competitiveness overall. And by the way, if we did increase the employment, the competitiveness of Europe would increase anyway by itself, I think. But it's not exactly our subject area, so let me speak on this as an eceee board member more than my other hats. I circulated a paper to the eceee that was produced by KfW in April of this year, because the KfW were very concerned about the debates we've all heard around competitiveness of the European industry being eroded by the cheap gas prices in the United States. So the KfW undertook a study, it's a 3-page document, is the output, comparing German industry and US industry, and looking at the differences in the costs across the elements inside industrial competitiveness. The overwhelming conclusion of that study is that there is no threat to the competitiveness of European industry by cheap gas prices in the United States.
And when you link that to the information we have on the shale gas excitement, we should call it more a shale gas bubble, because ExxonMobil boss has admitted publicly that they're losing their shirt on this. They will not continue to supply at such a cheap price. The price of shale gas in the US has doubled in the last 3 to 6 months. And each shale gas field that's opened peaks its production within a month. So this is not a threat at all. It's a political opportunity that people have jumped on. And I urge the audience to read that KFW paper. If you have time to dig in the archives, go back to Paul Krugman's paper of 1994 on competitiveness of industry, and you'll read further erudite arguments around why we should not worry about inter-regional competitiveness, because the main markets are local markets. And that's absolutely true in my own sector, in the building sector. So the proportion of turnover of any industry or company that relies on being competitive against another region of the world is very, very small. It's a real minority of their turnover. This is Paul Krugman's arguments, not my own. So in terms of competitiveness, I'm absolutely convinced that we should use the moment to boost the talk around the need for greater energy efficiency, because by doing energy efficiency, which, as Paul Hudson said at our own event recently, should be done even if you're a climate skeptic, because it makes sense because of the economic benefits and social benefits, we will maintain our lead in the world as a region, being more innovative and more competitive. So that, for me, is the core of the debate today, which didn't emerge fully from the presentations, but I wanted to put it to the audience.
Maybe just to say that the paper is featured in the eceee newsletter last week, so you can go in and look at news and you find it.
And to add that I think Paul Krugman had a Nobel Prize for that paper.
Okay, I think we will have to close the discussion quite soon. Some people are start leaving, but we still have room for comments or questions if there is anyone who want to participate. Didier?
It's one question about target setting. Fraunhofer says that there is a huge potential, and I can accept that. And my point is, if we claim for a binding target for efficiency, we have to think how to organize the burden sharing. So first question, if there is a binding target, do we need a burden sharing or opportunity sharing? My answer is yes, because there are many discrepancies in the rhythm of achievement in energy efficiency between Poland and, I don't know, Italy. So we should have a burden sharing. And the argument of Fraunhofer was, because the potential is so high, 40%, 50%, we don't need to have a burden sharing. So is it still your point, or it's Wolfgang, we have this point. He said, because the potential is high, everybody can have something to eat, so we don't need to have a burden sharing. Are you still on that view, or do you believe we need a burden sharing?
I'm not really sure if that was our view, but all these calculations I showed, I only showed the sum, and it's based on calculations for all countries, and there you can see that the potential is different by country. Therefore, I also think we need a sort of burden sharing if we have such a binding target, and especially if we have such an absolute target, because the growth will be quite different too. If you have an absolute target, this will also influence, and the potentials are also different. Therefore, we make all these calculations really at the level of the member states, though we all know we have a lot of data missing there. But
just for, because if we embark for the nuclearing, it means 3 years of negotiation. And because he mentioned that we still not have a consensus at political level to monitor efficiency. Which is not my point of view, since in a project we went from 20
Didier, when the 2030 proposals come out, there will anyway be a discussion of burden sharing of a greenhouse gas target and a renewable target. And so in that discussion, maybe it will take 3 years, I don't hope so, but then the including of the burden sharing of the saving target could be included in the same round. The burden sharing discussion will come anyway. So we have tried it before on greenhouse gas.
If we claim for burden sharing, which is my personal point of view, we have to. This is a counter argument because it's include more complexity. This is what I just want to mention. If we are for burden sharing, we include complexity, which is an argument to not implement such kind of target.
Okay. Any other elsewhere? I think we should close the seminar. I want to thank all of you. I think we all have a job to do over the coming weeks and months. Try to have energy efficiency or energy savings one way or the other included in the 2030 framework. When we heard Tudor today, and when I have heard other speakers from the Commission over the last months, they all argue there is a huge cost-effective potential for energy efficiency, which we have to do anyway. But when they come for the policy issues for the 2030 framework, they don't address it. So it seems as we all agree there is a huge potential. But we also have to address it in the policy framework, and that we have all of us to help to do that, to secure that. Thank you. And finally, first I will thank the speakers, and especially thanks Barbara and Baden-Württemberg representatives here that offer us the rooms, and I think also they maybe offer us a small drinks afterwards now, which I hope all of you would, and some eatings. So I all hope you will enjoy us and participate in that. Thank you.